What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about release yourself. I know this is going to be an interesting one. When we find ourselves in these circumstances that are sort of, causing us to have to stay in a certain space, this is what we're talking about. How do you get out of that space? How do you get out of that energy? What do you do to move forward even when those circumstances seem to be holding you back? Right? So on Time to Rise and Thrive, we talk about your subliminal soundtrack. We talk about getting it to work for you rather than against you. We talk about things like seeing your unique beauty and your value and the contribution that you are to this world. So I'm in a really interesting space right now, my friends. So today's show might be interesting. It might well be interesting. So have you ever felt stuck or trapped in a situation? Now, I know for me, this has definitely happened multiple times. One was really, really big and pretty recent, but feeling trapped in a situation like you can't get free no matter how hard you try, and you couldn't release yourself. As much as we like to believe that we have control over our own lives, there are certain circumstances that come along that cause things to be completely outside of our control. We're waiting for another person. We have, something that has to happen before we can actually cut that off, put it completely in the rearview mirror and be able to move forward completely free of that. And it happens. There's nothing we can do sometimes about those things, but you have a choice. You always have a choice. So do you want to remain tied to that energy, remain tied to that circumstance or that thing that's happened? Or do you want to move forward? Because you always have a choice. And we're going to get really clear on some of this. Kim says, hell yeah. Yes, ma'am. We find ourselves in these circumstances, and it's this piece of, where does the power lie? Where does the power lie? Do you have the power to make up your own circumstances, your own rules for how you're going to be? Do you have that power, or are you allowing someone else or another circumstance to have that power and control your life? That is the big question we're going to talk about today. So what is this subliminal soundtrack? What is this? I'm going to just give you a brief description in case it's your first time on the show, and then you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. So we all have this loop of messages that plays in the back of our mind all day, every day. It's made up of little bits of information that we've collected throughout our lives. So every conversation you've ever had, every lesson you've ever learned, every relationship you've been part of, every single experience has given you little bits of information, and you've picked those bits of information up and stored them back there on the subliminal soundtrack. So we use that information to create our belief systems about everything, about ourselves, about how we fit into the world, about what we feel we are deserving of, about what is possible. Everything is impacted by those messages that are playing on that loop 24 hours a day. So the statistic is between 60 and 80,000 thoughts go through the average person's brain every single day. Now, when you do the math on that, that works out to somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 per minute. I don't know about you, but I really have no idea how many that I could actually identify out of that 50. It happens so quickly, right? And what that tells us is that it's happening back there where we're not even aware of it. So when I talk about our subliminal soundtrack, it is very important for us to get clear on what were stored back there, what ideas and belief systems that we've created for ourselves back here, and release ourselves from the ones that no longer serve us. So I'm going to give you a couple of really quick examples. There's this idea out there for a lot of people that rich people, wealthy people are greedy and unkind. So if you're someone who has that belief system, or that money is the root of all evil, it doesn't even matter what's going to happen. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. Maybe you'll win the lottery, but I promise you, you'll find a way to rid yourself of that money in very short order, because your belief system tells you that what that means for you is all bad. And you don't want to be greedy. You don't want to be evil. You don't want to be those things. So this is how it works. It pushes those circumstances away, even when they're right in front of us, or it causes us not to be able to even recognize or see the opportunities that are right in front of us. So another one would be relationships. If you've been hurt over and over and over and over again, you may have developed a belief system that tells you that love is pain. Love will hurt, and therefore you will create sort of an invisible boundary that will cause nobody to be able to get to you. Do you understand? Nobody can get to you, even the person who has no interest in hurting you, even the person or people that want to love and support you and help you create a beautiful life for yourself. Even they can't get to you because you have put up that wall that says love is bad, love is dangerous, love hurts. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is how this all works. It's so very important for us to understand what's going on back there and then purposely create the messages that will support us in creating the life that we want. It's not that hard to do, but it does take a bit of work. So how does this subliminal soundtrack thing relate to what we're talking about today? So simply this: if you believe that you're stuck, you're stuck. If you believe that you're trapped, you're trapped. But if you believe that you get to choose what you're going to tolerate, what and to whom you're going to give your power, you will realize that this is completely up to you. It is completely inside your control. So really boil this down. It's not about the circumstances that we may not be able to change. It's about how we choose to be with the circumstances we may not be able to change. Do you understand? So it's not about the circumstances we can't change. It's about how we choose to be with those circumstances. This is where your power lies. So it can be uncomfortable. And I'm not talking about this hurts. I'm not talking about this is unfair and all of the emotional stuff that comes up for this. What I want you to really grab today, my friend, is that you have your own power. You are the person in control of what you're going to think, what you're going to give your energy, what you're going to give your attention. You are the person who's in control of all of those things. It does not mean that we don't have things that come up. It does not mean that we don't hurt or that we don't feel sad or betrayed or frustrated or any of those things. It doesn't mean that we don't feel them. What it means is that we choose how long we're going to stay in that space and in that energy. All right. So this morning, as I'm getting ready to do the show, I always have this process in the morning on Fridays where I spend most of my time focused on what do I want to talk about today? What do I want to put out there into the world? And I'll tell you, the thing that kept on going through my head, there's a song from the 90s. I think it was Wilson Phillips, and it's called Release Me. It's called Release Me. Okay. So here's the sort of the idea of the song is that you will not release me. Would you please let me go? Would you please let me go? Are you feeling the energy of that? Will you please let me go? So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we helpless and hopeless? Or are we in a position where we decide? If a situation is no longer serving you, and this can be any kind of situation, it can be a job or business, a career, it could be a relationship, it could be a place that you live. There's a person that I know who went through a divorce, I'm going to say something like 10 years ago. And when he and I first met, we were talking about, his story and his circumstances and whatever. And he said to me, I had to leave. I had to leave because I couldn't be in that town anymore. So I picked up and I moved to a new city and I started from scratch. And it's the best decision I've ever made. How wonderful is that, right? You get to choose. Will you remain in that circumstance, or will you make a move to take yourself out of that space, out of that energy, out of that way of being? You get to choose. So you're either trapped and need to be released, or you'll decide when you're going to release yourself. Which one feels better for you? Now, I want to be really, really clear. We're not judging anything. I don't want anybody to make anybody else wrong. It's not up to you to decide when someone else heals. It's up to you to decide when you heal. All right. So I'm not about making people wrong. Sometimes you need to roll around in the jagged edges and the hurt. And sometimes you need to do that in order to walk through it. And one of the worst things we can do is try to push ourselves through it before we're ready, because that's when those things get lodged and stuck. So sometimes we have to allow ourselves to roll around and feel that ugliness in order to release it and be able to move past. If you don't, then it'll sit there and wait. So I talk about dancing with your demons sometimes on the show. And what I'm talking about is those times where you've pushed it away and refused to look at it, refused to do your work or to deal with whatever it is. It could be a belief system. It could be an emotion. It could be whatever it is. Do you see what I'm saying? Those then become those demons because we didn't deal with them to begin with. And eventually they're going to come at you when you're sort of low, when things are hard, when you don't have the resources to keep that lid on the thing that you've shoved them down into. When you don't have the resources, that's when they're going to push their way into your world. And that can be kind of traumatic. So we're trying to avoid that. All right. So what we're doing is we are dealing with our feelings as we need to deal with them. And at the same time, we are choosing how and when we allow that to be part of our space. All right. So the one thing that I'm gonna sort of illustrate this with is I have an income tax business. I think anybody who's watched the show knows that that's part of my world. And a few years ago, the marriage broke up. My marriage broke up, and I was really struggling to maintain my control. So here's what I did. I created this game for myself, and this might sound silly, it might not, but it helped me to focus. So whatever you need to do to help you focus on the thing that you need to focus on now and not get wrapped up in that state of overwhelm and I'm out of control and I don't know what to do, whatever you need to do is good. Okay. Provided, of course, that it's not like involving weapons or anything like that. But what I did was I looked at my desk, I made myself a list of which files needed my attention, because the kicker on this one is that this conversation happened 9 days before tax deadline. So I had my deadline. I had people that were counting on me to maintain my focus, to maintain my ability to finish the work that needed to be finished before that date. Do you understand? So I looked at my desk and I went, okay, here are the things. I made a list of what was in front of me. And then I decided that I was going to put a dollar value on each one of those files. So this one's going to be worth $200. This one's going to be worth $500. This one's going to be worth $150, whatever it was. And I marked that right on the list. And then I made it almost a game where each one of these files was like something that I needed to complete in order to uncover the money. Does that make sense? So every time I would get that, this file's complete, great, there's $500. This one's complete, okay, there's $150, whatever it was. And so looking at it from that perspective of it being a game where it was, my only job was to just uncover the money, made it easier than looking at it from a place of, oh my God, I have so many things to do and I'm hurt and I feel angry and I can't focus my attention. So you can choose where you focus your attention. It takes a bit of practice, but you can do it. All right. So we're going to head to our first break now. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Now in the third segment, we are going to do what we always do and have sort of a mini workshop here with 5 steps on what to do when you find yourself in these circumstances. So at some point between now and then, I would encourage you to grab yourself a pen and a notebook or a piece of paper or something. But we're going to head to our break now. So stick with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about releasing yourself. So working toward your own healing and your own life that you want to create for yourself, even when you feel like you might be a bit stuck in the circumstances you can't control. That's what we're talking about. This is your power point, right? Your power place. It's so wonderful. So wonderful when you get to a point where you can stand in your own power for yourself. Wonderful. All right. So in this segment of the show, I just want to sort of talk about some of the things that happen that lead us to believe that we don't have control, that we are stuck, that we are trapped, that we can't move forward. Just to get some clarity on this, because So one of the things that I was thinking about this morning is there are very, very real circumstances. So anything legal, because, if it's something where you need to go in front of a judge, you're waiting for the date that they can put you in front of the judge. If it's something where there's a contract that needs to be signed, then you're waiting for the other person to sign the contract. There's all kinds of circumstances in legal situations, even settling estates and all of that kind of stuff, right? Those things obviously put us outside of the control seat. But again, you get to choose whether you are going to focus your attention on the things you can't control or whether you're going to focus on the other stuff that might help you actually get into a better space, that might help you actually create some happy joy. Do you see what I'm saying? So waiting for those things to happen. Now, one of the things that came up to me, so particularly if you're in a position where there's a business deal or something like that, and somebody so you've signed the contract, sent it off to them, and you're waiting for that contract to come back. Sometimes we have to get clear that no response is still a response. No response is still a response. I know. And it really sucks when that happens because, we can feel like people just didn't do what they said they were going to do, or like so many other things. So it really sucks when that happens. But if you have sent that contract off to the other side and you're not getting it back, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to move forward, maybe it's time for you to figure out a different direction. Maybe it's time for you to look at, is there somebody else? Give it a deadline. And if you haven't heard back from them by that deadline, let it go and move forward. Okay. So anything legal can cause us, because often it's in the hands of a judge or whatever, that we have to wait for their expertise to step into the situation before we can actually be free of it. Sometimes life hits us with too many things at once. Pardon me. So when I was thinking about this particular thing, sometimes life can level you. It can level you. You have one circumstance that you're already dealing with that is taking resources, that is taking attention and time and energy and all of that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, here comes another situation. And this one is probably just as important, maybe even more important than the other one that you're dealing with. So when we're dealing with these things where multiple things have gone wrong or multiple very important situations need our attention, that can also be the thing that causes us to feel stuck and trapped in the circumstances. So for me, really quick example of this was I was already working through the divorce process when a friend of mine came to stay with me. She had cancer, so on and so forth. And within about a month or month and a half, she had been diagnosed with terminal, like there was nothing more they could do. And she was still here. And obviously she wasn't going to be able to move out to where she had hoped to move to. So it became very necessary for me to make that the situation in front of everything else. She was living here. She needed support. Circumstances were what they were. So the truth of the matter in the end was what I realized a few months after she passed was I had already been really depleted from the other circumstances that were very important in my life before she came. And I did not understand the toll that that took on me. I would do it again. Now, I don't want to, I want to be clear. I'm not saying anything negative, but the truth was that I was already depleted, and then that just knocked my legs right out from under me. So it was necessary for me to allow myself the time and the space to process everything that I needed to process and to rest. Okay. It was necessary for me to do that so that I could get back up on my feet and do what I needed to do for the next step, for my business, for creating this new life that I had already started to see in my mind's eye. So sometimes it's that we can feel exhausted and trapped because we are exhausted. We're not trapped, but we're exhausted. So allow yourself some time to rest and wrestle with whatever it is that you need to wrestle with to get through that. So the next thing that I want to talk about is this thing called fear. Yes. Fear is a thing that happens to us, especially when we are in a position where either it's that subliminal soundtrack that's telling us. So again, let's go back to relationships. So maybe you've met somebody new. Maybe you've got somebody sort of got your eye on somebody and you're thinking, this could be fun. This could be fun. But then that subliminal soundtrack kicks in and tells you, oh, no, 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 no. So what we are responding to in that case is the fear of being harmed again, the fear of being hurt again. It's not necessarily like you don't have enough information at this point to say this is a bad situation. You're kind of considering, okay, maybe a good fit, maybe fun. But then that subliminal soundtrack kicks in and knocks it out. Forget it. We're not doing this. So one of the things that I have heard fear related to is false evidence appearing real. And that's where that subliminal soundtrack comes in. Okay. It can feel very real in the moment. It can feel very tangible almost. But very often, the thing on the other side of the fear is the thing that will help us to move forward in our lives. Okay. We talk about this all the time on the show. Steve Harvey's book, Jump, same thing. The fear, we have to take the leap. We have to take the steps. We have to make the decision to move through and past the fear in order to get to the other side of it. And sometimes that can be really hard to do. It can be really hard to do when we are in the thick of it, when, all of that is going on. For me, like I get a nervous stomach and I get anxious and worried and all of that sort of stuff. But the good thing for me is that I've done my work And now I know what to do with it. Now I know what to do with it, right? So very often fear is something that when we acknowledge it, when we address it, the the scary part of it kind of goes away, because two, fear happens. It's completely normal and natural when we are going into new circumstances. So if you've had a situation that you've had to release, maybe it's a job, maybe you've had a job for a really long time, or a business for a really long time that has served you well. And now it's just time for something new, time for something different, time to retire. I know I have a very close friend actually who just retired. I don't know, a month ago, let's say. I don't remember exactly when it was, recently. So she just retired. And I know that the last 2, 3, 4 months leading up to that date, I could see her anxiety rising, 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 rising. So we talked about that quite a lot over those months, and, sort of dispelling that, because she's fine. Like, she's in a position to do that, but you're going into new territory. What does this look like? I don't know. I've never been here before. I have no idea what to expect. Do you see what I'm saying? So even the most beautiful, amazing, wonderful opportunities or times in our lives, or whatever the case may be, if it's unfamiliar territory, you will have fear come up because it's unfamiliar territory and you don't know what to expect. So fear actually can be a good thing, because it causes us to pay attention to what's going on, and it causes us to be conscious of what we're deciding. Do you see what I'm saying? So maybe that fear over the new relationship isn't a bad thing, because it causes you to look at the situation and say, okay, is this a red flag, or is this something that's going on inside of me? Is this something I need to be concerned about because this is a bad fit? Or is this something that's coming up from my subliminal soundtrack? Do you see what I'm saying? So it causes us to pay attention. And as long as it just causes us to pay attention, and it doesn't cause us to halt, it's okay. Fear can be a really good thing. So the last thing that we're going to talk about before we go to our next break is the limiting beliefs. Fear will come up around our limiting beliefs. We will limit ourselves. We will believe ourselves to be trapped and stuck in a circumstance because, for example, let's just say you don't have the ability or the skill required to do this new thing. Okay. That might be a very fair assessment of the circumstance. It might well be. And what can you do to change that? Do you see what I'm saying? So once again, you put yourself into the power place. Maybe there's a class that you can take. Maybe it's a thing that somebody that does this very well, and you can tap on them and say, hey, I need some help with this. What can you do to help me with this situation? So lack of self-worth. Now, this is a big one. This is a big one for a lot of people. So lack of self-worth would be things like, I'm not good enough. I deserve the uncomfortable, unpleasant thing that happened. I don't deserve to be happy. Do you see what I'm saying? This is one of those big, bad, ugly demons. And this is one, if you are living with this, I would really encourage you to get some help, whether it's from a counselor, whether it's from a coach, whether it's from someone you love. Get some help sorting this out and breaking this one, because if you don't, this one will hold you in sort of a holding pattern. Actually, it'll keep you in a holding pattern where you will never, ever be able to embrace all of the abundance and wonderfulness that life has to offer, because you believe that you're not deserving of it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not a good one. So get some help with that. For me, one of the things that I wrote down this morning as I'm doing this was when I was getting ready to start this show, when I was getting ready to start, putting myself out there in public and speaking in public, one of the things that kept on coming up was, why would anybody want to hear what I have to say? Why would anyone want to hear what I have to say? What do I know? Do you see what I'm saying? So those lack of belief in yourselves, the lack of self-worth, that is one of those things that will keep you stuck and not moving forward into this new thing. Another one is, I'm not strong enough to get through this. My life has completely collapsed around me. Maybe somebody's died. Maybe like me, you were going through a loss of a relationship, a divorce, whatever it is. I'm not strong enough to get through this. So let's just blow that one out right now, because I don't want to leave on that note before we go to the break. You have a 100% success rate of surviving every single thing life has thrown at you. So when you start to feel this, I'm not strong enough to get through this, challenge that with the thought of, I have gotten through every other thing that's ever happened, and I will get through this too. Okay? Because you've got this. You've got this. You don't even know how strong you are. I would lay you money if that's one of your messages. You don't even know how strong you are. All right, my friends, we're going to head to our next break. Don't forget to grab that pen and paper, because in our next segment, we're going to go through some actual steps on how to do this. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, and I will be back with you in just one moment.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. And now is the time of the show where I share a little bit about what's going on in my world and my business. And yeah, man, there are a lot of moving parts in my world and my business right now. And it's awesome. It's awesome. But this is why I can speak to this overwhelm, because there are times when we're juggling so many things. And we got to keep all those balls in the air. That can lead to overwhelm. And that's been sort of my world the last little while. So I am speaking from right now when I'm talking to you about these things. So what are the things that are going on? The first thing is we've got the new website has been launched. So JackieMott.com is the new website. Yay. All of the other ones that you've heard on commercials or that you've seen around for me, they will still direct you over to JackieMott.com. And there's a whole bunch of good stuff there. I'm actually really pleased. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. You can go there to download your free copy of 5 ways to create 5 steps to create a mindset wired for success. It is an article that I wrote a few years ago. I have changed it up for the new launch on the website. I'm excited about that. We've also got There's a group on Facebook. So you can find me on Facebook at Jackie Mott, Mindset and Empowerment Expert. And the group that I've just sort of gotten going there is called An Empowered Mind with Jackie Mott. So if you would like to do some challenging, there's going to be all kinds of stuff that happens within that group. So we're talking about mindset issues. We're talking about empowerment issues. We're talking about getting you into the driver's seat of your own life. And very soon, there's going to be some really fun stuff happening in that group. So if you would like to join, go and like the page. And I think you can request it. And then I just have to let you in. So go find us on Facebook. Yay. The other thing that is kind of, and this is sort of the thing with all of the moving parts that's happening right now. I'm hosting a summit on October 7th. So there's going to be all kinds of information coming out about that. In fact, next week's show starts a 5-week series where I'm talking about what we'll be talking about on that summit. So that summit is called Starting Over Summit, and it is really meant for middle-aged women, my age, I'm turning 50 soon, sort of my age that are going through this like, wow, my life, the life that I thought I knew is gone. And what do I do now? What do I do now? So I've created this thing called 5 stages of starting over. And we'll be talking about one of each of those stages for the next 5 weeks. So starting next week, we will have the series starting with stage 1, which is ground zero. I'm excited about this. So the summit will be a free summit. There will be a VIP option to get recordings and so on and so forth. But I'm excited about that one. Yes, it is exciting, Kim. Kim is my producer today. She's awesome. It's very exciting. There's a lot of wonderful moving parts going on in my world right now. And I'm excited. I'm so excited to bring these things into the world that I've been thinking about for a long time. So let's get into the meat of this whole thing. Let's get into the meat. Are you ready? Did you grab your pen and paper? If not, go grab it now, because here we go. So what do you do when you find yourself in this space where the circumstances are sort of outside of your control and you're not really sure how to release yourself from the situation, from the relationship, from the whatever, right? What do you do? First one, limit your contact or exposure to the situation. So this could be something like blocking people on your social media that aren't a contribution to you. It could be blocking people on your phone. It could be putting down the boundary that says, these are the things that I will allow for us to discuss, because maybe there's still some stuff that has to be sorted out, right? So I will allow you to talk to me about these things. Anything outside of that, I'm not responding to. Or even, God forbid, if the situation is getting really ugly and scary, maybe, because that does happen sometimes, call the police. So you are in this particular area, you are limiting your exposure, you're putting up your boundaries, you are not making yourself available for drama and BS. All right. That is, this step is critical. It is critical for you to limit the contact. Okay. It's damage control. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you've got a hole in a boat, then you start getting that water out of there, right? This is that. All right. So limit your contact so that you don't sink. Because if you allow those people or those circumstances to continue to pick at you and bug at you and create difficulty for you, if you allow that to continue, there are some people out there, we call them elves and rattlesnakes. There are some people out there who are just unkind, and they take great pleasure in causing trouble for other people. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So if you allow them to continue to do that, then they're just going to keep doing that because it's fun for them. I know. Who likes those people? Anyway, number 2, ready? Practice self-care. Now, this one is very, very, very important, because getting enough rest when you are in a stressful situation, when you are in a circumstance like I was with my friend, it was necessary for me to be as rested as possible so that I could take care of her. Do you see what I'm saying? So it is very, very important for us to get enough rest. The other side of this is that when we're tired, we don't really think as clearly, right? So we can make decisions, or we can take action on things based on not the right stuff. I know I didn't say that very well, but you understand what I'm saying. We can, because we're tired, we're not able to think it all the way through. We can make a decision that we later regret because we didn't think it all the way through, and we didn't because we couldn't. So very important. And you might need medical support. If you're going through some really difficult stuff like this, maybe you need to have some medication that will help you, rest, that will help you to maintain your focus or whatever it is. So don't ever feel like going to the doctor and asking for help is a bad idea, even if it's a mental issue, please, because mental issues are just as difficult sometimes as the physical issues, and we don't give it the attention sometimes, or we feel like there's a stigma and we shouldn't do that. If you need support, go find it. Okay, you are responsible for yourself. Go find the help you need. All right, so this can be, getting some exercise. This can be taking care of your mental and physical well-being, right? So maybe you need to have more fun in your life so that you have those mental reserves, those emotional reserves. Maybe you need to go and spend some time in nature. Maybe you need to journal, or you need to have a group of people that you can talk about. Maybe you can find somebody that can help brainstorm with you the exciting things that you would like to have. You get to choose the energy. Okay, you get to choose the energy that you have about this. And the last piece of this, taking care of yourself, the self-care piece, is be kind to you. Sometimes you just can't, and that's all right. So be kind to you. Don't expect yourself to be going at 100% when you are going through trauma or grief or whatever the circumstance may be, whatever those feelings may be. Don't expect yourself, and for God's sake, please don't beat yourself up that you can't. All right, do what you can. Sometimes all you can do is wash the floors. Sometimes that's all you've got, and that's okay. That's okay. So number 3, what do you want to create? This one's where it gets fun. So if you had a magic wand, I always think about the Disney Cinderella story, and the bibbidi bobbidi boo. Bibbidi bobbidi boo. What do you want to create for yourself? If there was no limit, if somebody had a magic wand and could say, boom, there you go, you got it. What do you want to create? Allow yourself to dream. This can also be really good for that self-care. Allow yourself to dream of the future that you want, of the circumstances that you want, of the job that you want, whatever it is. Allow yourself to dream about those things and really soak in that energy of, wow, what would this feel like? What would it be like? What do you want to create? You are the only one that you need to think about right now. Maybe there are kids involved. So, put that where it fits. But really, you're the top priority right now. Okay. All right. Number 4, focus on the future. So whatever we focus ourselves on, it gets bigger, doesn't it? And so if I'm focusing myself on, all of this lack stuff, then what am I? That's all I'm going to see. I'm not going to see the opportunities that might be sitting right beside me or coming into my world. I'm not going to see them because all I'm focused on is all of this lack. And I don't have this, and I don't have this. And I wish I had this, and I wish I had that. You got to shift the energy, focus on the future. So what is it that you want to create? What we just talked about. Now you're playing with that. What is it going to look like? What would it feel like? What would it feel like what will it feel like when I'm on the other side of this storm? What will it feel like when I figure out how to do these things for myself? What will it feel like when I live in that new city, or when I'm driving that new vehicle, or when I'm working in that new field? What will it feel like? And allow that to really juice you up. Okay. Really roll around in that as much as you can, because that will lift you. That, hey, what could happen? The possibility, the space of possibility is the juiciest, yummiest space that you can occupy. So get into that space of possibility and roll around in it for as long as you can. The last step here, don't hold back. Now, this was a mistake that I made, so I'm speaking from experience here. Do not hold yourself back. Okay, don't worry about anybody else. Let them worry about themselves. You worry about you. Don't hold back. Take action. take action. And the thing with this taking action is it doesn't all have to be leaps and bounds. It does not have to be big steps. Sometimes all we can do is one step, 1 inch. Sometimes that's all we've got. But the wonderful thing, even baby steps will get there if you take enough of them. So if that's all you've got and all you can do is inch forward 1 inch at a time, keep going. Keep going because you will get there. Okay. All right. And there's a question with this. What can you do today that will move you toward your goals? Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's contacting somebody that, an official or a government agency or whatever it is. What do you do today? One action, just one. What can you do today to move you toward that future that you want to create for yourself? It's yummy stuff, my friends. Yummy stuff. All right. So you are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. When we come back from our final break, we are going to wrap up today's conversation about releasing yourself. What can you do to heal yourself and focus on your future, even when you are in the midst of those circumstances that make you feel like you can't? Stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about releasing yourself, how to work toward your own healing and your own future, even when your circumstances might be making you feel a bit stuck right now. So this is our last segment. What I just really want to do is recap the information that we've gone over on the show. So bottom line, you must do what's right for you. You must do what's right for you. Okay. Especially when you find yourself in a situation where maybe the changes that you're going through were somebody else's decision. Do what's right for you. This can be tricky though, because I know for myself, one of the things that, there was always that person that had been part of my life for almost 3 decades and had been part of every decision that I made, had been part of my thought process on every direction, on everything. And when that person was no longer there, it was tricky to find that space where it was focused on myself. And I found myself sometimes sort of sliding into that and going, wait, hold on, no. All right, do what's right for you. And really, you should be doing that anyway. You should be doing that anyway. That's part of that self-love and honoring of you and so on and so forth. And it can be hard to do. So be gentle with yourself, but do what's right for you. Take it one day at a time. And sometimes that can be a lot. That can be a lot. So sometimes we need to focus on 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. I promise you, when I was working to that tax deadline, sometimes it was 1 hour, 1 15-minute period. There were times when I really had to challenge myself to stay focused, to stay on task. Okay. You can do it. Just whatever is going to work right now. Not too much. If I look at 6 months from now, that's too far out. It's too far out and I can't. My whole life will be different by the time I hit that place. So right now, let me focus on this morning, this afternoon, maybe what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's about as far out as you go. Okay. When you are in that space, allow yourself that I don't have to be on task 24 hours a day. I just need to focus for the next 15 minutes. Anybody can focus for the next 15 minutes, right? Break it into manageable chunks. Lean on your tribe. There are people out there that love you dearly. Lean on your tribe. Allow them to support you. Allow them to be that safe place, that soft place to land, Allow them to be that for you. Do what you need to do to get the emotional side of it out. Talk, scream, journal, exercise, get out into nature. And get to forgiveness of yourself and anybody else that's involved in the circumstances as soon as you can. Don't rush yourself, but get there as soon as you can. Be prepared that there may be some setbacks, but get there as soon as you can. All right. Buddha's got the saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So we want to get past the anger. We want to get past all of that feeling as quickly as we can and make peace for our own health, for our own selves. That's what we've got. Healing is a process. It's a process. Allow yourself the time to do what you need to do. The last thing that I've got before we go into the end of the show here is remember you have survived everything else that life has thrown at you. Everything else. You can get through this too. You can get through this too. You've got it. All right. Quote that I'd like to leave you with today, my friends. Even though it may not feel like it, we always have a choice. If you find yourself in a circumstance that you'd like to be free from, you can stay there or you can get busy creating something you do desire. What we focus on grows. Will you focus on the past and what you've lost, or will you focus on the future and what you have, the new possibilities that you are creating yourself? It's your choice. What do you choose? All right, my friends, that's it. We're right down to the wire here. Thank you so much for joining me. We will be back next week on Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain, and 10 Pacific. And next week is the first segment of the 5 stages of starting over. So we're going to be talking about what to do when you find yourself at ground zero. At ground zero. That will be what we talk about next week. It'll be good. It'll be good. This was one of those things that sort of presented itself to me because I was thinking about what did I need? What did I do? What do I wish that I had done differently? What did I do well? And how did it all come together? So this program is one of those it comes from the heart. It's going to be, yeah. Okay. What a wonderful time to be me. There are so many things that are going on in my life, and I really love the show. I'm blessed, man. I've got Kim, I've got Christine. We've got wonderful producers on the show that come out and support us and help us to provide you with all of this information, to provide you with another point of view or another perspective. And that's really what this is about. My hope is the people who come on the show with us, they gain something, just some little piece of information or knowledge that helps them to shift their perspective and help them to move through difficult circumstances more easily. So thank you once again for being with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. I so appreciate your time. I so appreciate your attention, and I will be back next week.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.